Welcome back to Behind the Caution Tape. I'm your host, CrashLit. A lot to talk about last week with USC Athletics and a lot coming up this week. Obviously, we'll get into all of it. First, I do want to say thank you to all of you for supporting me. This is episode 100 of Behind the Caution Tape, so your support means the world to me. Please keep sharing the word of this podcast. It's been so fun to do, and it's really been such a pleasure to share my love of USC with all of you, and I'm hoping keep doing that. So just wanted to give you all a big thank you. So be sure also, before you get into things, be sure to check out my merch line. I'm repping the CrashLit Forever jersey. You can also get the hat, has the CrashLit Forever logo on the side. And then also be sure to also subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Amazon, etc. You can also find us on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to me on YouTube. And be sure also to follow me on social media at CrashLit and subscribe to my YouTube channel at CrashLit to see all the latest and what I'm up to. So now let's get into a bit of football news. Forgot to bring this up last week. We'll bring it up quickly. USC will play San Jose State in week 0 to open the season at the Coliseum on August 29th, I believe it is. Yeah, on August 29th, USC will host San Jose State to open the season. Overall, my thoughts are on this game. I think it's, considering everything USC went through, it's not bad, but I'm not sure it puts Jen Cohen in the best light, given that she did commit that USC would play at least one non-power four opponent every one non-power four conference opponent. One power four non-conference opponent every year. Sorry, I'm not sure how to phrase that, but basically one power four opponent that isn't in the Big Ten every year. And at least this year, USC won't be able to do it. I mean, obviously, given the circumstances, but like I've said before, USC always knew when they took this risk of canceling Notre Dame that the Irish might not cave and that USC would be forced to find a new opponent. That ultimately happened, and say what you want about Notre Dame and their role in this, but they were ready with BYU waiting. As soon as USC said no to as soon as they hit the impasse, they had BYU dialed up and announced and ready to go. Just want to bring that up. Then also spring football practice started last Tuesday. So we'll see how that goes. So definitely should follow the big storylines. Obviously very interested to see what happens with the whole situation at center with who goes there. Is it going to be Tobias Raymond or Killian O'Connor? But then after that, obviously I'll be trying to see what other interesting storylines pop up, especially considering how early USC is doing their spring ball this year. And no, they will not have a spring game this year, it sounds like. So that is also out. So just wanted to bring all that to you. And now let's move into men's basketball, who unfortunately has continued to struggle even in the last few weeks. USC lost 91-72 at Washington on Wednesday. In their first game without Chad Baker, Mazzara Elijah Arenas led with 19 points, Ezra Alzar 11 rebounds, and Cam Woods with 3 assists. And then USC held with UW in the first half, and then even was leading at halftime, but about halfway through the second half, the Huskies exploded and just overwhelmed the Trojans. Then the woes continued into Saturday on senior night when USC lost 89-68 against UCLA at home. Arenas led with 20 points, Alzar 11 rebounds, and Woods 11 rebounds. Throughout the first quarter of the game, USC was hanging with UCLA a little longer, maybe until about 7-8 minutes in the first half. But then after that, Donovan Dent and the Bruins just crushed the Trojans to take the regular season finale. So USC finished the regular season tied 12th in the Big Ten with a 7-13 big record, same as last year, 18-13 overall Big Ten record on a 7-game losing streak. They will be the 13th seed in the Big Ten. And while obviously, hopefully USC can, find some momentum in cutting Chad Baker Mazzara, they don't appear to have that, in part because it's pretty tricky to replace his talent at this point in the season is kind of the way I see it. So sure, maybe it motivates them if, he was just so detrimental. You had to do something to just try to put the culture in a better position. But at this point in the season, it just seems so late that just seemed like it was going to be tricky for that to even matter. So ultimately, USC will have the 13th seed in the Big Ten tournament, and they'll face Washington yet again. As you can see from here, I put the bracket on here, so USC will play at about 11:30 a.m. on Pacific time in the second round against Washington, and then if they win, they'll play at 11:30 against Ohio State. And that'll be on Wednesday against the Huskies. On Thursday, they'll take on 8th seed Ohio State at about 11:30. So the Huskies will be on Peacock, and then next game will be on Big Ten Network. If the Trojans, or no, they'll play Wisconsin. Pardon me, sorry. So yeah, if USC beats UW, they'll play Wisconsin at 11:30 on Big Ten Network on Thursday. If they can beat the Badgers, which they beat once already, they'll take on Illinois at 11:30 on Friday. Illinois are 4th ranked. That was a crushing loss at Galen. So about 11:30 there. If the Trojans somehow win, they will likely be taking on Michigan, and at noon or at 9 a.m. on CBS on Saturday. And if they somehow win all, they'll be in the final on Sunday, which will be on CBS at 11:30 p.m. at 11:30 a.m. and likely we'll have to play Michigan State or Nebraska. So it's a pretty daunting stretch if USC wants to try to make March Madness, as they are completely off every bracketology, off of every bracketology. They completely played their way off it without it. Maybe they can play it on, but the way I see it, they got to win 5. And that's going to be a pretty daunting assignment, especially having to go through Wisconsin and Illinois. So, and then Michigan, yeah. All the teams they got to face, it's going to be pretty daunting. So hopefully USC can, figure it out. But it's going to be obviously a long road to, make March Madness. But wanted to bring that tournament bracket up so you can just see the full exactly what road the Trojans have to go through in order to keep their season alive. And barring winning the championship or at least making the final, USC season will likely be over once they lose. So, yeah. So now move on to women's basketball, who took a 76-64 loss to 8th-seeded Washington on Thursday in the second round of the Big Ten tournament. London Jones led with 19 points, Laura Williams 13 rebounds, Kennedy Smith 3 assists. So yeah, Washington broke the game open in the second quarter, and despite USC rallying in the fourth, it was just too little too late, especially Jazzy Davidson, who was named Big Ten Freshman and the Athletic Big Ten Freshman of the Year and the Athletic National Freshman of the Year, will undergo MRI for a right shoulder injury that happened during the game in a collision with Avery Howell. She exited in the first quarter, then came back, and then exited again early in the fourth quarter. So USC heads into March Madness with a 17-13 overall record, 9-9 in conference. And they're probably a 9 seed, and they had a net 22 ranking at the end of the tournament. And the way bracketologist Charlie Cream has them with ESPN, he has them in the Columbia region. So they'll have to face South Carolina as a 9 seed against Oklahoma State. So USC should probably be in. Even though the record isn't too great, they definitely were playing very competitively in some of these games. So they're looking in better shape, but they're going to have to wait another week to find out, as the Selection Sunday is this upcoming Sunday. So pretty much all the updates there. So yeah, now we'll move on to our other sports here. So baseball is likely to keep moving up the rankings after reaching 15-0 and matching the best start in program history since 1988. So on Tuesday, USC won 6-4 against UCI with big performances from Cameron Fawcett, Augie Lopez, and Jack Basier. And then UCI started strong, but then USC fought back and got 2 runs in the 8th to take the lead for good. Then USC did get a tie in an exhibition on Wednesday against Waseda University in Japan. No results were provided beyond the score. Waseda's on a tour, it appears, of the West Coast or at least California, so Cool that the Trojans got to take that on. Didn't get to watch. Didn't have a live stream of it, so wasn't able to watch. And then USC got a sweep over Illinois this weekend. They got a 4-0 win on Friday with big performances from Mason Edwards and Augie Lopez. They got another 4 win on Saturday behind a solid outing from Grant Gavell, Sax Matson, and again, Augie Lopez. And then a 5-3 win on Sunday to get the sweep with Sax Matson, Adam Troy, and Dean Carpentier having notable performances. In the first 2 games, USC was able to shut out the Illini, but then Illinois put up a fight in the finale, striking for 2 runs in the first before USC scored 5 answered runs. Definitely the toughest game I think USC's faced. First time I think we've really seen one of USC's weekend starters struggle a little bit, as Andrew Johnson didn't have the best outing. Confident he'll bounce back next weekend on the road against Northwestern. So USC now sits at 15-0 on the year and 3-0 in Big Ten play. So up next, the Trojans have 2 midweek games, both at Dato Field. They'll take on the 4-11 Long Beach State Dirtbags at 6 p.m. on tomorrow night on Big Ten Plus, and then followed by a visit from University of San Diego at 6 p.m. on Wednesday on Big Ten Plus. The Toreros are 7-8. Then the Trojans will head to Northwestern to take on the 6 and 7 Wildcats from Friday to Sunday. All 3 games will be on Big Ten Plus with first pitch times of Friday 1 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday will be at 11 a.m. So USC has a chance to keep going hot, keep the hot start going, and climb the rankings with its first Big Ten road trip, and maybe even have the best start in program history if the Trojans can win tomorrow. Men's volleyball returned to action for the first time in 18 days last Tuesday and suffered 2 losses against UCLA. Lost first at home against the top-ranked Bruins 3-2 on Tuesday, 21-25, 25-23, 22-25, 30-28, 15-19. Dolan Klein led with 25 kills. Sterling Foley 4 kills. Wesley Smith 8 blocks. Caleb Blanchett 49 assists, and Johnny Dykstra 19 digs. So USC had its chances to win, especially in the 4th set when they took it to overtime. Then UCLA fought back the entire time and then prevailed in the 5th set. And I think winning that 4th set just gave the Bruins a big spark. Then the Trojans lost a bit more decisively 3 days later in Westwood, this time 3-1, 25-22, 23-25, 25-15, 25-19. Klein led with 16 kills. Foley and Cooper Keene had 1 ace each. Parker Tompkinson and Foley led with 2 blocks each. Caleb Blanchett 30 assists, and Johnny Dykstra 10 kills. So the first 2 sets were close, but then UCLA pulled away in the last 2 sets of the match and won a bit more decisively. So USC now sits at 8-3 on the year, 1-2 in conference. Possible they'll drop a spot or 2 in the rankings. So up next, the Trojans head back on the road, or stay on the road, to face Concordia University Irvine. That'll be on Thursday at 6 p.m. on Big Ten Plus. The Golden Eagles are 5-11 on the year and 2-3 in MPSF play. And then Penn State. USC will then host Penn State on Saturday at 5 p.m. on Big Ten Plus. The Nittany Lions are 11-5 on the year. So USC needs to bounce back against these opponents who aren't as good. And then the Trojans, I think, can have a good season. And realistic, I think it could be tough, but it is not out of the question that this team can run the table. They've proven they're good enough. They went toe-to-toe with UC Irvine and beat them on the road. So they can play with anybody. It's just a question of can they, play with them long enough. So beach volleyball held steady at number 3 after going 14-2 this weekend. They got a 5 on, so they had 6 duels this weekend. Tuesday, they got a 5-0 win against CSUN and a 4-1 win against Stetson. And then in the MPSF midseason rumble, which they co-hosted with UCLA, the Trojans got 5-0 wins over Cal and Oregon on Saturday. Another 5-0 win against GCU, or 5-0 wins against Cal and Oregon on Friday. Another 5-0 win against GCU on Saturday before beating LSU 3-2. So USC has increased their win streak to 10 straight duels after losing their last 2 duels in Hawaii. So they're now 14-2 in the year. And up next, they'll head to the Florida Atlantic Beach Invitational, so other side of the country for the Trojans, where they'll take on Tampa and FSU at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. respectively on Friday and on Saturday. And then on Sunday, they'll take on Florida Atlantic at 7 a.m. and TCU at 1 p.m. So USC will take on some schools from the East Coast, and then also the defending champs in the TCU Horned Frogs on Sunday. So lacrosse got 2 wins this week, going 13-3 on Wednesday against San Diego State, where Alex Malin with 4 goals. Ellie Thomas in goal had the win with 6 saves and 3 goals allowed, played the entire game. So USC scored the first 6 goals of the game and never looked back. And then won 19-10 on 19-10 on yesterday against Niagara, where Vivian Luthold led with 3 goals, and Thomas had 3 saves and 6 goals allowed, played the first 3 quarters, and Charlotte Morton came in at the end and had 2 saves, allowed 4 goals, played the last quarter of the game. So Niagara outscored USC 5-1 in the first, but then USC outscored Niagara 17-1 in the second. Third quarter to put the game out of reach and fend off a bit of a Niagara comeback. So USC now sits at 6-2 on the year and gets ready for Big Ten play, which begins at home. Trojans will start it by hosting Penn State on Thursday at 6 p.m. on Big Ten Plus, and Michigan on Sunday at 1 p.m. on Big Ten Plus. The Lions are undefeated at 8-0. Michigan is 5-2. So 2 tough opponents for USC coming to town, especially as Big Ten lacrosse is no joke. So USC, so women's water polo sitting at number 3 in the country, likely to stay there. Went 3-0 at the Convergence Tournament in Claremont this weekend. That was hosted by Pomona Pitzer. Got a 25 win against Michigan on Friday with Ava Stryker leading with 5 goals. Anna Reed had 5 saves and 6 goals on the first half. Lauren Schneider had 3 saves and 3 goals out in the second half. Game started at 3-3, but after that, it was really USC the rest of the way. USC then got a 38 win against Long Island to start their Saturday with 6 players leading with 3 goals, and then Reed having 7 saves and 8 goals in playing the full game. USC scored the first 4 goals and never looked back from there. Then USC got an 18-5 win against Villanova on later that day with Alma Jacoby and Ashley Kwan leading with 4 goals, and Schneider having 9 saves and 5 goals out and playing the full game. Villanova started 3-1, but then USC took over from there. USC now sits at 16-2 on the year and 2-0 in conference play. Like I said, they'll probably stay at 3rd in the country. They'll stay on the road for 3 more games, the first of which will be at Arizona State on Thursday at noon. The Sun Devils are 23-3 on the year, likely on overnight.com. So best luck to women's water polo this week. So swim and dive saw their men's team take part in the SMU Last Chance meet from Wednesday to Friday. Then up next for the divers, USC will take part in the Zone E diving championships in Flagstaff, Arizona, starting today and running through Wednesday. They're sending 9 total divers. And then they have the NCAA. And then for the swimmers, which the divers will join them at, they have the NCAA championships in Atlanta, Georgia. 8 women swimmers are confirmed, and the women's tournament event will run from March 18th through 21st, and the men from March 25th through 28th. So it's the final stretch for swim and dive, so best of luck. Upcoming for track and field is the NCAA Indoor Championships in Fayetteville. Those will be March 13th and 14th. So can the men repeat as champs, and can the women improve on their 3rd place finish from last year? The big questions this year. USC rowing won their dual event against UCLA at Marina Del Rey, which the Bruins hosted. And USC obviously came down to the final race. UCLA captured the 3rd and 2nd varsity 4s, as well as the 2nd varsity 8. USC got the 1st varsity 4 and 1st varsity 8 races, which it ultimately came down to. But the Trojans ultimately won the event and were able to improve to 24-1 all time against the rival Bruins. So up next for the Trojans is the San Diego Crew Classic. That'll be from March 28th through 29th at Crown Point Park. Men's tennis got 2 wins this weekend on the road, getting a 6-1 win at Purdue on Friday, where USC won the doubles points and got singles wins from Branko Djurovic, Nathan Trouvé, Max Ekstedt, Andrew Casanova, and Connor Church, and then a 4-3 win at Indiana, where the Hoosiers got the double point, but the Trojans got singles wins from Djuric, Trouvé, Ekstedt, and Casanova, and Andrew Casanova to go 2-0 on the weekend. So the Trojans now sit 10-3 on the year, 2-0 in conference play. So up next for the Trojans, they have a rematch, this time for conference play against UCLA on Friday in Westwood. The Bruins are 8-3 on the year and 2-0 in conference play, and USC is looking to sweep UCLA on their turf in this Big Ten matchup. The women's tennis team also swept on the road this week, getting a 4-1 win at Minnesota on Friday, where the Trojans got the doubles point and singles wins from Imi Haddad, Eugenia Zozaya, and Krisha Mahendran, and then a 4-1 win at Wisconsin on Sunday, where the Trojans got the doubles points and singles wins from Zozaya, Emma Charney, and Danny Boruel. So USC is 9-4 on the year and 2-0 in conference play. So up next for the Trojans, they'll host Penn State on 10-2 Penn State on Friday at noon, on Saturday at noon, and then 10-1 Ohio State on Sunday at noon. So USC has a chance to stay hot as Big Ten play picks up. And then men's golf resumes action this week, or today and tomorrow, with the Desimone Invitational at Lake Merced Golf Club hosted by Cal. That'll be today and tomorrow, with USC's lineup being Nicholas Dominguez, Jack Buchanan, Antonio Safa, Luke Stock, and Raghav Gulati. And then for the women's golf, they also have action those same 2 days, but it'll be the Game Above Invitational at the Rolling Hills Country Club, which USC is a co-host of, on today and tomorrow. So the lineup for them will be Catherine Park, Kylie Chong, Bailey Shoemaker, Sarah Hemmett, Elise Lee, and then the independents will be Jasmine Koo and Chloe Kim. So obviously, because I'm back in Virginia, I didn't make it to any games this week, but was watching as much as I can and will be this week. As it stands right now, I am 46-17-1 this school year and 357-136 all time. So we did not get any questions today, but feel free to always post them. I'll always post a question box, or you can always just tweet at me or just shoot me a DM if you ever do have questions and regarding USC athletics, and I will be happy to answer. So that's all the time we got for you here today on Behind the Caution Tip. Thank you again, as always, for sharing part of your day with us. Really means the world to me, and thank you again for all your support over these 100 episodes. Here's 100 more. Can't wait to see y'all next week. Be sure to check out my CrashLit Forever merch. I'll see y'all next week, and fight on.